happening, guys? Chris VA Travels. I'm in the little town of Lewes, Delaware, which is the first town in the first state in the country, and going to visit the Cannonball House, a house that bears scars from the War of 1812, and pretty neat. I don't often get to visit sites that are affiliated with the War of 1812, but there's still a cannonball stuck in the side. I believe it's decorative. But yeah, inside is a little museum talking about the siege on Lewes, Delaware during the war. And yeah, let's go check it out. Wow, this is a busy road we're on. Interesting siding on this house. We have kind of shingles and pretty cool big anchor. And I'll tell you, this thing was built in 1760 by the McCracken family. Before I go inside, let me find that cannonball. There it is, okay, right over here. And all right, so here we go. Placed here by Colonel David Hall, chapter Daughters of the American Revolution. All right, so the Cannonball House. And to tell you why the bombardment took place, during the War of 1812, Commodore J.P. Beresford, he had brought over a fleet of ships to block the Delaware Bay, and it was to keep ships from coming and going to Philadelphia. And while stationed, he had written a letter to the Chief Justice of Lewes asking for supplies, which included 20 cattle. Chief Justice of Lewes forwarded the letter on to the Governor of Delaware. Governor of Delaware sent militia down to Lewes and replied to Beresford, pretty much telling him to take a hike, saying, "Why would we trade with you? We're at war with Britain. That would be treason." Yeah, so Beresford then bombarded the town, laid siege, fired over 800 shells over the next 22 hours. Eventually ended the bombardment, just realizing that Lewes wasn't a military or strategic position. Oh, and I will tell you that afterward, there was a famous poem written in a Philadelphia newspaper that read, "Beresford and his men only wounded a pig and killed a hen." Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit to see in the backyard. Let me go in and take the tour, and yeah, they probably want you to buy a ticket before you go back there. All right, let's check this place out. Made it inside, and like I say, we've got a maritime museum in here with a lot of great objects to look at. And right here, this is a Billingsport range front light, just a utilitarian light that was used from 1995 until 2001. And these replaced the beautiful handcrafted Fresnel lenses you used to see on top of the lighthouses. Yeah, here it is, 14-foot bank light Fresnel lens, and this thing could shoot a beam about 20 miles out into the ocean. Tag on the wall says Builder's Half Hull of Pilot Boat, Philadelphia. Pilot schooner here called the Tunnel. It was constructed in Brooklyn, New York in 1887. And this was painted as a present for Governor Ebb W. Tunnel, and in return he presented it to Captain Robert Chambers. He was one of the original owners of the pilot schooner. Vintage engine room telegraph right here. Looks like this is out of Brooklyn also. Tucked back here, we've got a brass binnacle compass with pretty cool feet down here. And is it missing a needle? Was there a needle on there? Another binnacle right here. And you would adjust those balls on the right and left to calibrate. Kelvin White Company, Boston and New York. Compensating binnacle, type MBF. 1892, this pilot schooner, it's called the J. Henry Edmonds. It's damaged. It had just been ran into by another schooner called the Ralph M. Haywood off of Cape Henlopen. And this is the newer version of the J. Henry Edmonds, and you'll see as it ran aground. It had served for 36 years before it eventually got stuck just off the point at Cape Henlopen. silver coffee urn that belonged to Charles D. Schlesinger, and sadly he was lost at sea. He was aboard a ship called the Enoch Turkey. It disappeared in April of 1889. Sadly, the ship and the crew were never found, and this urn had been taken off the ship before that last voyage. It's an old pilot radio right here. It was a gift of Captain James F. McIntyre. This is Captain William Ingram Jr. He's inspecting the radio equipment inside of the wheelhouse. Pretty good demonstration of how Morse code was used to communicate from ship to ship. Yeah, no more using flares, line guns, signal flags.
So because we started a charge with the copper wires, the compass essentially gets corrected in the sense of it's now wrong. You know, we're creating our own electromagnetic field.
Alright guys, this is a wet cell battery, and each jar has nickel and copper electrodes that collect a charge, and the water is an electrolyte that allows a chemical reaction to occur between the two metals. Alright, from 1877 until 1917, the house was owned by local seamstress Susan King Rowland. In the room we're standing in operated as her notion store, and is where she sold buttons, ribbons, and fabrics to Lewistowners. The Ocean House, circa 1910. Looks like a pretty happening spot, and it sat off of South Street. Obviously the basement right here, it was used for food storage, protection from the weather, enemies, and sickness. Obviously a telegraph key right here, and you see where the lines would connect. Interesting, this figure came off of a sunken French vessel out of the Baltic Sea. And it's in such good shape because the water is so cold, it has a really low acidic level, and there's not much marine life to really pick at it, so pretty cool. Alright, made it upstairs, and standing on the gun deck here, this is Seaman John Powell. And yeah, it looks like they're getting ready to unload on somebody. Toy ship from the early 20th century, and it closely resembles the USS Wasp, a vessel that was commanded by Jacob Jones. He grew up here in Lewis, and actually he lived over at the Reeves Holt House that you can visit. Unfortunately, it was closed while I was out here. Jack Tar was a nickname for a seaman. It gets its name because they would be covered in tar that they had used to soak the lines and cables. They would also sometimes tar their clothes to keep them waterproof. This here is a persuader, and it was used by press gangs, so I think you know what it was used for. But it's made from twisted baleen wrapped in hemp with lead weights at each end. Here is Commodore J.P. Beresford with the British Navy. and he's the one responsible for the siege on Lewes. And here's Beresford's letter to the powers that be in Lewes. And here it is, the actual cannonball. And it's estimated that 800 shots were fired, and they all would have been 18 or 23 pounders. Naval Commander Stephen Decatur, he actually died via a duel down there in Bladensburg, Maryland. Pretty cool old map of the Delaware Bay and River painted on the ground here. And obviously this was the gateway to Philadelphia. Yeah, twist around to Newcastle, Wilmington. And there you go, yeah, Philadelphia. Really old photo going back to 1855. This is of Thomas R. Norman. And this is the only known surviving image of a Lewes resident that took part in the defense. Alright, so below deck. A lot of information in here. And it looks like they slept 3 high. Silicone arm here with some traditional seaman tattoos. And like the mermaid there. Royal Navy cutlass going back to 1804. British ship, the HMS Majestic, and this is similar to the vessels that were blocking the Delaware Bay. Some pretty neat stuff in there, and just gonna walk the grounds. Looks like they've got a few things to look at, and pretty neat. They've got the shells down here, oyster shells. All right, old ship's bell, it looks like. Shane Bell Foundry, out of Baltimore, 1888. Cool. All right, a few cannons back here. Over here, the explorations of Giovanni Verrazzano. Oh yeah, pretty cool. And yeah, Italian explorer, commissioned by the French. And yeah, in 1514, he led a voyage of discovery up the East Coast. He was the first European, I guess, to really chart it out. I don't think the Spanish ever charted the East Coast, but yeah, went from Cape Fear, North Carolina, all the way up to New England. Oh, and he was cannibalized. He was eaten by the Caribs down in, I think it was Guadalupe down there. Yeah. This stone is from his ancestral home. That's pretty crazy. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of the town, but it's of course in Italy. There you go. Valdigrive in Chianti, Italy. Oh, unique. I wonder how it got here. All right, so the last pilot skiff in Lewes used to take river pilots from boat to ship in the Delaware Bay, and took 4 people to row this thing. Yeah, just a big shed over here. Here's the back of the house if you want to look. So yeah, just a 3-bay house. With a little attachment here on the left. And oh yeah, cellar down there. Yeah, I just want to see what that was. That's going to wrap it up for the Cannonball House, and pretty good stop off. I enjoyed learning about the Bombardment of Lewes, and what I thought was particularly good was the wireless display, talking about the dawn of the electronic age. But yeah guys, I'm going to get out of here. As always, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.